Okay, so in this episode, we are going to be talking about something pretty short and quick, but we're giving you kind of a little life update on some news we found out this week unexpectedly. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, and thank you guys for just always tuning in. We're so thankful for you guys as our listeners. And you're the reason why we come out here twice a week and record podcasts, because you share them with people that you know, and you make it just so rewarding to be a part of this community. So thank you guys.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
It's crazy to think that it's been just over a year. Wow, excuse me. Man, sounds like I'm getting emotional already. It's been just over a year since we recorded an episode doing a gender reveal. Remember in that old studio?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it seemed like I was just in the ultrasound place talking to that guy.
Right.
Doing the ultrasound. Like, it was just, like, we're here already. We've had these conversations already. Like, we've done it 3 times now with the same ultrasound tech. And it's just kind of funny how deja vu it all was. I was like, I'm just here. I'm hoping that I don't get to labor and be like, I was just here, because I think that's what it's going to feel like.
Oh, man. It is pretty... Yeah, it's surreal. And I guess that's the nature of life, is the longer you live, the more compressed and more condensed all your memories and experiences seem. I mean, I do think, objectively speaking, this was a pretty quick turnaround, quicker than we were anticipating, as far as how quickly we got pregnant. I mean, it's not a quickest, obviously.
In terms of anticipation, we knew we got pregnant, but yes, after we thought we initially, when we started this year, we thought, we won't get pregnant this year. And then like a few months into the year, we changed our minds, which has happened a lot.
Yeah, that's kind of the story of our life, huh?
It is. Like, life seems pretty chill. We should have another baby.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting though. And so anyways, this actually is a gender reveal episode, even though we never anticipated that being the case. Because we were committed to keeping this one a surprise, which we have done on 3 of our 5 children. Is that right? And so we've proven that we're good for it, right? We've proven that we've had the ability to withstand the desire and the temptation to find out. And we wanted to do it again, but just wasn't to be.
Well, the thing is it's so rewarding at birth to find out what the baby is. And so I was really anticipating that excitement. And I also think it's because this is going to be kind of a noteworthy gender in terms of my perception of our family, because it was either going to be, okay, our second girl in a really long time, or it was going to be 4 boys in a row, which I've seen a lot of sets of 3s, and like in my family, we never made it past sets of 3s when it came to girls.
Interesting.
So like 4 just seemed like a lot to have in a row. And so to me, either way, it was like, this is going to be noteworthy. This is going to be exciting. I'm going to be really excited and surprised. And to be honest, I was super shocked and surprised in the ultrasound room. Like, I didn't even need to get all the way to delivery, I guess, to be shocked and surprised.
Do you think the surprise was the same caliber as it would have been on the day of?
Well, you don't have like all the adrenaline and all the endorphins and everything that you have the day of. But I think, the Lord just knew that we should find out.
Yeah.
So anyways, you guys know that, what have I been like saying this is going to be the whole time?
Yeah. So we were actually very united on our belief that this was a girl.
Yes.
Based off of, you would know more than me because you felt how you felt.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, from my perspective, all of your symptoms were far more similar to when you were pregnant with Lucy.
Yeah. And partially, part of me was thinking, well, that was a really long time ago, so it just seemed different. But this pregnancy just seemed different than all my other pregnancies. And I was sick for longer. I didn't have as much facial hair, which, is kind of a funny thing to say. I was also not as sick. Like, my sickness wasn't super acute. But I was kind of like, okay, also our life just was so much different than any other life in terms of we were moving out of our house, we were moving in here, and I didn't really have time to think about this pregnancy. If I was sick, I didn't really have time to sit down or lay down or do anything about it. You just kind of kept moving. And so I thought that it had to do with the gender of the baby, but then there's like the only percentage that could make it different is, okay, well, maybe it's our lifestyle that's making this pregnancy different, because this has been a very different pregnancy. So do you want to tell what happened?
Well, yeah, I wasn't there.
How did we...
So it started out, I dropped Katie off at the ultrasound technician's office, and you brought Leon, Lucy, and Lewis with you in. Mm-hmm. And then I was going to go run some errands with Lionel and Lawrence. And then I was... Yeah, like, again, there was no debate from the beginning of this pregnancy as to whether or not we were going to keep it a surprise.
Yeah. No.
That was a non-negotiable. And so it wasn't even like, hey, should we find out? What do you think? Or are you having second guesses on this, second thoughts? And it's like, no, there was none of that. We were very solidified. So I was pretty blown away when I came back and picked you up. And you're like, well... we found out. I was like, what?
Yes, that's why Elisha wasn't there in the room or anything, because it just wasn't going to be a big deal. We're just going to, make sure baby was healthy. And my midwife requires this ultrasound. Otherwise, I wouldn't get this ultrasound. We didn't actually have any ultrasounds with our first 3, which I think is what made it a lot easier to commit to just not finding out the gender.
Yeah.
Was you didn't have to walk so close to the gender and like almost find out. And so, it was really nice she didn't require it. And so we were just like, hey, we have no clue. I didn't opt for any of the tests or anything like genetic test or blood work. And so we didn't know every time we had a baby, like, is this going to be a special needs baby? Is this going to be a baby with like a club foot? Like all the things that they can kind of determine or, get close to determining in the womb. We didn't do any of that with our first 3. So it was just kind of like, hey, it's a baby. We're going to be excited about it. Whatever it is, it is. And so anyways, but now these ultrasounds are very in-depth that I do.
Yeah, they're high-tech.
They're very high-tech. There's a giant screen. And so it's like this big dark room and this giant like viewing screen in the ultrasound room. And so I told the ultrasound tech, hey, we aren't going to find out the gender. He's like, okay, no big deal. And I had one of the kids in with me during the whole time, and they would take turns coming in, and the tech was pointing out, here's the head and here's the legs and all these different things, and they just thought it was so cool. So it was Leon's turn, and he came in, and the tech was like, okay, we're going to find out the gender now, so look away from the screen. And I was like, okay. So I look away from the screen, and I said, Leon, look away from the screen. So Leon looks at me, and then I don't know why I didn't send him out of the room, but it was all just so fast,
sure.
And I didn't know that the tech was going to literally write what it was on the screen. I thought he was just going to look at the gender, make his own notes. And so right then Leon looks at me, and then he looks back at the screen. He goes, oh my word. And he says the gender, and the tech, I feel like the tech, because I was still looking away, could have played it off and just been like, oh, that's not what it is, or you don't know, or whatever, but it was written there on the screen. He's like, I can't believe you didn't look at your mom. She told you to look at her. And he bawled Leon out for looking at the screen. I think he felt embarrassed. And I was just kind of I still wasn't looking at the screen. Is this for real? But it was just kind of funny that it got written on this giant screen in huge letters, and what 7-year-old isn't going to peek,
Yeah. And then, he's like, I know how to read that word. You know? It's this is, I've been reading this one for a while now. So yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Obviously we want, immediate obedience, first time obedience, but it was happening so fast. I'm with you. And it was in such a new environment. I think it was genuine curiosity. He's just kind of looking around, and he looks up and he's like, whoa. You know?
And I just started laughing, and the ultrasound tech was like, I can't believe you're laughing. Ladies would be crying at this. And I was like, why? I just found out what the gender of my baby was. It's not the end of the world. Anyways, so are we going to tell them what it is?
Yeah, we may as well.
It's a boy. It's a boy.
That actually blew both of our minds.
Oh my goodness. Yes. That's probably also why I started laughing, was just like, are you kidding me? 4 boys. First of all, I was super confident it was a girl. So turns out I don't know anything.
4 boys in a row. It's our 5th boy.
4 boys in a row.
All right. Many of you like growing in your marriage. Katie and I, whether we like it or not, we want to grow in our marriage. And usually we like growing in our marriage. And one of our favorite resources regarding marriage is Marriage Maximizer. It's a program that Katie's parents collaborated with us in creating. And they actually made a free masterclass for this. So you can watch their masterclass. We linked that below. This in and of itself, Katie and I love. Like, there's so much value in this free masterclass. So check that out below. Find some fun insights on how to grow in your marriage. In the link, you can see it.
I think I was surprised last time. It seemed like a lot of boys in a row, but then having the 4 in a row, honestly, I was so stoked. I was so excited about it. And obviously, like, Lucy having a sister would be a precious thing. I'm kind of jealous over my time with her at this point, and so I knew it would change our dynamic. And that's not to say I don't want her to have a sister, but I love that I just get to hang out with Lucy, and she's my one girl. I think it's really special. And then I also think just having a pack of boys is what our family's identity has been. And so I think it would have changed it up if we just became more of a mixed bag. And as it is, we're just like the boy family. But what do you think? What did you think?
Yeah, I was genuinely surprised. I had just come, not to terms, I just had thought it was a girl. Like, I was convinced it was a girl. And it was actually, I had been processing that because it does seem like we've gotten into a rhythm and a flow with our one girl, setting aside time for me to get special one-on-one time with her, for you to get one-on-one time with her. And obviously we want one-on-one time with all of our children, but much of our boy activities just were conducive to doing together already while they're young. And so the thought of having a younger girl and then a bit older girl was this is just, again, human reasoning, like us trying to sort things out in our brain. Being like, okay, how are we going to do this, like, relationally?
It was just more challenging. That's all.
Yeah. Even in regards to, like, rooms. Okay, like, so there's the girls' room, there's the boys' room. This can all make sense. But, so I was genuinely surprised because I had been really expecting this entire time. Oh, whoa. Man, that was quite the hair.
That's one of my hairs.
Yeah. I was really expecting a girl. And so when you said a boy, I was blown away. And I was almost a little bit relieved because it's not that I think we've cracked the code with raising boys. But if anything, I'm more intimidated by raising girls than I am by raising boys. And I'm sure I'm going to be humbled with my lack of, sobriety around raising sons here in the near future. But I've been intimidated with Lucy since the beginning, relationally, emotionally, the prospect of dating and whatever, courtship, marriage, all of that has really been a challenge for me to, I guess, wrap my brain around. Whereas with sons, it's been invigorating. And if anything, it's been a really fun challenge for me to try to stay youthful, to stay energetic, to get excited with them about exciting boy things. And so it really caught me off guard, but I was almost a bit relieved because like I said, it was daunting a little bit in my brain having another daughter and then figuring out the logistics. Because I even think that this is, again, me using my human reasoning and from my own anecdotal experiences. I think sibling relationships are more straightforward with sons than with daughters, right? As far as boys getting along with each other, just duking it out, having disagreements, arguing about it, then reconciling quickly. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I had obviously all sisters. Primarily, I have 3 brothers, but there are big gaps in between. And I don't know what's been. I feel like, I don't know, because I have good relationships with my sisters.
Yeah, and I think my sisters have great relationships with each other as well. Obviously, I'm just viewing this from a guy's perspective, a boy's perspective, and it was easier for me to wrap my brain around a pack of boys that, working through those relational, even the different, assuming there's going to be similar shortcomings and downfalls, temptations with boys. It's not that I'm looking forward to that, but I do highly esteem my father for how he walked me and my brothers through, sexual purity, speaking about temptation, about work ethic. And I don't think I'm going to like copy and paste what my father did, but I think he set a great example and really led out in that area. And I think he also instilled in me and my brothers that that's like our job to do with our sons as well. So anyways, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because Elisha and I laugh. We're like, we feel like we just, like Lucy's the perfect daughter. I feel like she's like our only child for our daughter. Yeah, I feel like we have a perspective of only child parents for our daughter. Like, oh, we get quality time with her. We just, it's just nice having just one of them. And there's not going to be conflict between her and another one. Like I feel like we're talking like how people decide to have one child. But I just feel like she's so spunky. She has such a great sense of humor. She's so cute. She's sporty and girly, and we just like got this perfect mix. And so I think part of us was intimidated. Like, if we have another daughter, is she going to feel like threatened by how like perfect Lucy is? And obviously Lucy has her shortfalls, but she's just fantastic. We can't imagine. We feel like we got the whole package in one little girl. So we're just really, really blessed with our Lucy. And I think I was really excited just at the prospect. I think whenever you have threes in groups of families, there's a big third wheel potential. I think that happened a lot in my family. And that would be something that we'd be looking out for with our family, is just looking out for that third wheel, because two kids have already bonded by the time the third one comes along and is ready to be a part of that like gender pack. And so I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it's something you just navigate as a parent and navigate as kids, but it's something that, and I'm also not saying, I guess, the third wheels don't happen no matter what. Yeah. It's very easy for pairs of siblings, regardless of their gender, to pair off and there to be a third wheel who's usually the younger sibling who gets isolated. And we don't want to exclude people in our family, and we want to be aware when those little packs or cliques are forming in the family and making sure that younger kids get included. But it made me really happy to think that Louie and Lawrence are already such a little duo. And Lionel is the baby right now, but it makes me happy he's just going to have a buddy right underneath him. Yeah. And they'll be able to do stuff as buddies. And I mean, just having a gender pack does make parenting easier on our end. So, I mean, it's things like, oh, they can do the same sport and two kids will be in the same age group. Or, all all 5 boys can do the same athletic opportunities or the same things, and a lot of them will be at the same times. And, it's just like, it just simplifies life from a big family perspective with extracurriculars. So I'm grateful for that too. Not that there aren't a ton of things you could do co-ed, and we do, but I don't know. Again, I feel like the Lord was really gracious in just being like, okay, here's 4 boys, and Leon's our oldest, rounding them all up, and it just simplifies things in my mind. So that's nice. Yeah,
but you do bring up a good point in that whole potential for the third wheel dynamic, and I don't think that is. I don't know if it's more or less likely to happen when there's all the same gender, because I just think there's a propensity for it anytime there's a third child in a pack, right? Regards to the
like
gender.
In an age group.
Yeah, and I know that certainly happened in our family. I honestly feel that's what's crazy, is that like I genuinely feel bad. True remorse for just like, again, you're a kid. You create your clique with one of your other siblings, and for whatever reason, you just like start proactively excluding who you see as being the third wheel. And maybe their development, because of their age, lends to you feeling like they're holding you back on what you want to talk about or what activities you want to go participate in. And because I think my parents were vigilant in not allowing us to be cruel as siblings, and yet it still certainly happened. And thankfully that sibling, who I think was, the one that was the most mistreated in regards to the third wheel thing, was like crazy mature and grown up and like, had tons of forgiveness, because that was actually the last spanking I got as a kid, was was my dad catching me and, one of my siblings just being so mean to the other sibling and just excluding them, in such a bully type way. And so, and that was different genders, right? That wasn't like
that was you, and you had a sister on either side.
Yeah, exactly. And so I do want to be very conscientious of that. Again, it's like we're not going to be able to catch everything, but I do want to facilitate an environment and a culture where that's not expected or allowed, or tolerated, because it's just it's unfortunate. A lot of that can really shape and form a lot of young adults, and then middle-aged adults' perception on life is how they were treated by siblings as a child.
Especially in like a homeschool environment, because it's not peers at the school where you're getting bullied. It's your siblings, and those are long-lasting relationships. You don't like leave that in grade school. It's like you could take that all the way with you into adulthood.
Yes.
And I feel the same way. There were 3 of us girls in a row, and our younger sister, Kelsey, got excluded a lot. And as a child, I did not think anything of it. Like, I just didn't. She was just slower and younger, and would tell Mama, like, I could maybe convince Kyla to do something that she shouldn't do, but I couldn't convince Kyla and Kelsey at the same time.
Yeah.
And now looking back, I do really regret that, where I was like, oh man, that's such a bummer. And thankfully, Kelsey again has been so gracious to forgive, and we have a great relationship now, which I'm so grateful for. But it does bum me out that her childhood experiences being around me were not as positive as they could have been. So anyways, but you don't have a adult perspective as a child.
Right.
And so you need a parent to like be aware of sibling interactions and stuff.
Yeah.
To bring that to awareness.
Yeah, and you brought up another good point. I do think it is almost more, there is more at stake when you are homeschooling, and it's the siblings that might do the excluding or might do the bullying, because I do certainly remember a handful of things that were said to me by non-siblings, from age 8 to 11, that were kind of mean or, whatever, insults or whatever. And it didn't take, and they hurt my feelings, but then it didn't take long for me to separate myself from that, remove myself, and be like, oh, like those kids were insecure. I don't actually feel that bad about it now that I see the context. Obviously, I still remember the things, but it's like they don't, resonate that much now that I'm an adult. However, the things that like siblings say, like you said, you see your siblings forever. And I think on some level, you always care about their opinion of you, whether they're older siblings or younger siblings. And so those, rude remarks or just insults or, different scenarios where you exclude them from activities can really, if the person being, insulted or bullied is not gracious and mature, they can hold on to those things for a long time.
They can never let go of those things.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm fortunate enough to have, again, the person that was this, air quote, third wheel is like way more mature than I ever will be probably, and is like really gracious, and mature. And similarly with Kelsey, where it's like they grow up and
you appreciate them now, and you know what I mean. Like, they know that isn't still like a feeling you hold towards them.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And you really respect them. And I do think that's the blessing, is it's not that sibling spats aren't going to happen or these things are going to happen, but we want it to not be so scarring or jarring. They're able to enter into adulthood and be like, oh, I see why you did that, or come to an understanding and have friendships that are long lasting as adults, because everyone's going to get wronged in childhood one way or another. And what we want is our kids to have long lasting adult friendships and be able to work through stuff.
Wow, that's so good, Katie, because the same goes for parenting, because we can say things in a weak moment as parents or off when we're not thinking clearly that could really have a, negative impact on our child's psyche. And you can't just say, well, if I say one of those things, it's done forever, like their confidence is going to be shot or their perspective on me is going to be altered, or tainted for forever. You have to have a long-term perspective on, and that's how relationships work in general. Like you think of marriage, it's like I've wronged you so many times and you've chosen to forgive me and then move on and strengthen our relationship.
Likewise.
And I want to have that same perspective with my kids, and hopefully hopefully they can have that perspective with each other, so that if they are, wronged as a child, which is going to happen, like you said, like our kids are going to be mean to each other at some point, and say things that are hurtful. And we will do things as parents, just in, like I said, in irritable moments, or we'll say things that could really have a negative impact on our kids. And that's why you have to think long term. And you want to have the type of relationship where they can come to you and say, hey, like when you said this, this really hurt my feelings, rather than just assuming, well, it was said, it's just going to be that way forever.
Yeah, it's like conflict is inevitable. Yeah. I think healthy conflict is conflict where there's still communication and there's healing in spite of the conflict, not trying to make sure conflict never happens, because that's an impossible road to try to walk. But anyways, I know we're talking like this is so finite, like this is our family size and this is where we are at. And obviously we're 21 weeks right now. We are praying for a healthy baby, healthy delivery. There's still so many unknowns. Everything's in God's hands. And it's not, but I do think Elisha and I, when we get pregnant, I feel like we've had since 4 children maybe this is the last one. Yeah. And that's been our perspective with our 5th. And then I think I was really settled at 5 children. I felt like very full house. I would alternate between feeling very like, I love this, I feel very full and content right now, and like, we should probably have 12 kids. Those would be like my fluctuations. And Elisha was more like, I would really like 6 children. So I knew that a 6th was, we should probably have 6.
Yeah. I'd always say 6 or 7.
You would? You'd say 6 or 7.
And I was like, man, I always saw myself with at least 6 or 7 kids.
Okay. So now do you see yourself with 6 or 7 kids?
I'm just grateful for this one. I'm grateful for the health that you have thus far, that our baby's healthy. And that is the funny thing. Like when we had our first, we were always planning on our second. When you have your second, we were always planning on our third. But then you get to this point and you realize how gracious God was. I mean, man does plan his ways. And so we were planning on having more children when we were pregnant with our first and second and third. But then you get to your 5th child or your 6th child, and you experience, some miscarriages as we have. And you realize, man, you cannot take any of these lives for granted. You can't take any of the lives that we have now that are outside of the womb for granted. They are the Lord's children. He's blessed us with these, eternal souls to nurture and to steward and to cherish here on earth. And I really have that perspective with this child. I guess I'm not saying it's like, arrogant or audacious to say, yeah, we're planning on another one, because again, man plans his ways, and if you want more, you want more.
We aren't right now.
Yeah, I think we're very much like we want to really be wise, and with the children that we have, I tell you what, it's just so humbling to see our shortcomings. I'll speak for myself, to see my shortcomings as a parent in the midst of a busy season, which everybody is in busy seasons. Days will go by, weeks will go by, and you're like, man, I'm not doing the things I know I should be doing, let alone the things I should be doing that I don't even know I should be doing as a parent. And yet, God's gracious with me, and I pray for his grace in my parenting, and, to really have my children's hearts. And I love my children, and I think that our family life is amazing. But, and so even with the number of kids, it's not that I think I don't want to ever be so arrogant to think, we've got this dialed in now with 5 kids or with 6 kids. We can really, manage this well now. I think I always want to acknowledge my complete need on the Lord and his grace and mercy and sustaining power in our life. And so I always want that, but I also would love to feel like, man, we are with what the Lord has given us, we are stewarding it well. And I think you can have both. I think you can feel like you are stewarding well, you are parenting well, and also realize your insufficiency apart from the Lord's grace in your life. And so anyways, I think that's something that we certainly consider with count yet with child numbers. Anyway, yeah, you probably didn't ask any of that. I'm just
No, I appreciate that, Elisha, and I am just so challenged and humbled by who you are as a father and as a parent, and how intentional you are with each one of our children and staying in tune with each one of our children. And I know each one of them feels so loved by you. And yeah, I think you said that so well. I think we just want to steward well what the Lord has given us, and right now He's given us, 5 children outside the womb and 1 inside. And we just want to be really wise and humble, and not like cocky or arrogant, or even having kids to have kids to hit a number goal, or because we feel we should, or all of these things. But just being really in tune to what the Lord has for our family, and what we can manage well. And I feel like yeah, you just said that so well. That is our heart for parenting. We just really, really love our children. We want to do right by them, and we want to honor the Lord with our parenting, and be wise with that. So anyways, that said, life kind of shows, can you steward more? Can you not steward more? Can we do that well? Can we not do that well? And so we know that this is on the horizon, and we want to grow our capabilities to stewarding 6 children well, but we also don't have this perspective of, we're just going to keep pumping them out. It's just a really one-by-one basis at this point. And so we talk like, this might be our family.
Yep.
And our family dynamics. And for the time being, we are very excited about that.
Yeah, indeed. Wow. Man, this cough. It's not leaving me.
I know. You've had it for a long time, too.
Yeah, it's just been kind of this dry cough. That
kind of hard when you talk.
Yeah.
So much, like you have to do things like podcast and give VMA calls. And
everybody has to talk in their life, hopefully, right? It's a good thing to do.
Well, people have to listen to you.
Yeah.
Get to listen to you.
Well, there it is, folks. There's the gender reveal. Did you have anything else to add, Katie?
No, that's it. We're excited. So thank you guys for celebrating with us. And it was a little premature, but I think the Lord knew that it was fun for all of us to find out anyways. The kids were all stoked. Lucy had her little bout of like, I don't know about this, but I think she's really excited anyways. She likes her special time too. So everyone's pretty excited. And now we don't have to think about the potential of buying anything pink. We're just going to roll it back.
Yeah.
Do what we did last time.
Yeah.
So
hand-me-downs.
Hand-me-downs all the way.
Yeah. Folks, thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.